Make it stop! Make it stop, E3 2017. It's day 4. It's year 4. It's the 4th decade that we've been recording podcasts for E3. Why? Every year, I forget. Why do we do so many podcasts about E3? Hey, everybody. Welcome to our final E3 2017 podcast. I'm Jeff.
I'm John.
John, you've been just watching me have a nervous breakdown from over there.
Yeah.
Well, watch no more because it's time to talk about Nintendo.
Yes.
We didn't have a conference. We had a Nintendo Direct, the way that we normally.
And then the Nintendo Treehouse stuff. But we're just talking about the Direct portion of it.
Yeah. Well, the Treehouse went on for days and days and days. I was actually a little bit. I was a little bit upset at this particular Nintendo one. I feel like so remember last year? Was it last year where the Nintendo Direct had for E3 was all like Muppets, or was that the year before?
Because that was the year before where it was puppets.
Okay, because I feel like a lot of times they have like a lot of fun.
Because that was when Star Fox was coming out.
Oh, okay.
Last year's was just focused on fucking the new Zelda game.
Oh, that's right. I don't know. I feel like normally they have a lot more like theming to it, and this year it was very kind of generic. It was just kind of all over the place, and there wasn't like a through line. Like in years past, I feel like we've had Shigeru Miyamoto and Reggie like out there. Just
there was also Iwata.
Well, that's true. Maybe that was all Iwata, and this new guy is just like, fuck it, just put the games out. So, before we dig into this, I'll tell you right now, if you're looking for 3DS games, you're shit out of luck this year. We are switching it, and we're switching it, and we're just switching it back and forth.
Well, they got to push the Switch. I mean, they did talk about 3DS games in their Treehouse live stream stuff, one of which we'll probably get to later. Is a big thing for you.
Yes.
But
let's start out. As the Nintendo Switch, I feel like the Switch... Like, they want to brand the Switch as this, like, hip console, right? Like, this wasn't... I didn't remember any of this kind of iconography around the Wii U or even the 3DS, but, like, the beginning of this starts out with this whole, like, oh, here's two people, and they're in a boxing gym, and it's all washed out, and they're playing ARMS, and, like, here's some people, and they're in, like, a dirty warehouse, and there's cars doing donuts around them, and they're playing Rocket League, and here's a guy, he's playing FIFA at home, then he goes out, he's playing soccer in the park, and then he's also playing FIFA, and then... he goes into a sewer tunnel and there's a bunch of people in there, and then they're all going to play FIFA together, and it's just like, look how hip and cool everybody who plays Nintendo Switch is, everybody.
It's probably how people who actually own Switches actually live their lives, because I wouldn't know, because I don't own one.
Well, I do.
I want one. I want to own one.
I do.
But I can't, I can't.
Yeah, I don't. In fact,
they're hard to find.
That's kind of interesting that they didn't actually even talk about that at all during this. But it's just a little weird. Like it's always been like that first Switch video had a button. It's like, oh, I'm walking my dog, and then I'm gonna go play Zelda in the park, and like, oh, me and my buddies on the other rooftop party are like, get on over here, girl, and I'm gonna come over there and we're gonna play some video games. Oh, and then, don't get me started on this fucking Underground Fight Club Splatoon 2 tournament.
You don't know about those. We don't talk about those, Jeff. We don't talk about those, Jeff.
It's very strange to me that Nintendo's just like, look how hip the Switch is, man. It's so hip. It's just everybody who's cool, and they're young, and they're pretty, and they're sweating, and they're out doing stuff in the world. Nintendo! When in previous years Nintendo has not, has been like, yay, Muppets, and oh, no, I'm Mario. Because I don't know if you got a chance to watch this, but then after that, Reggie comes out, and I felt like this motherfucker was like free associating haikus on the fly, where he's like, games are about struggle, and struggle's about winning, and winning's about struggle, and games are about winning, and winning is also about games, and games are about struggling to win, and just like, what the fuck are you talking about, Reggie? Just like, make it.
Reggie's
joke.
Always been like that, though.
Yeah, but I don't know. Like, I feel like in previous years he's been a little bit more fun, and this year he's just all like talking about the philosophy of video games and like blah 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 blah. And I don't know.
Well, it can't be my body is ready every year.
Yes, it can. It can be my body is ready every year. Don't tell me that it can't be that, John, because I know that it can. So yeah, let's jump in because we're just fucking. It's been forever. So the first announcement was Xenoblade Chronicles 2, with perhaps outside of some of the Atlas trailers that you and I looked at afterwards, might be the most anime as fuck thing that I've ever seen in my entire life. It's a story of a young boy. And there's a sword, and that sword has a lady in it. And the lady's sword needs the young boy to embrace his destiny and go to a promised land somewhere. And there's a bunch of evil people with swords that are trying to stop him from doing that. And oh my God, could it be any more anime? Could it? The answer is yes, but not by much. There's not, like...
There's one of the dudes wears a mask.
Oh, yeah? No,
there's a total mysterious dude wearing a mask.
There's a lot of spiky hair. There's a lot of giant swords. There's a lot of just...
They took like every anime like fantasy trope and shoved it all into one game.
Yeah, which is a little weird because you remember how Xenoblade Chronicles 1 was like a dirtier, a little bit more like Western looking at a more washed
I never
out...
played the first Xeno Chronicles game because it was limited release and then super fucking expensive.
It was what we... Well, they put it on the 3DS.
Yeah, they put it on the 3DS, and I didn't ever play it on the 3DS, but the original Wii version of it was like super hard to find.
Well, for comparison here, I mean, I can show you. This is just for anybody there at home. For comparison, the last one was like more of a washed out color palette. The characters were a little bit dirtier looking. It was just different. It looked very different than what we're seeing here, or not very different, but it was just, I don't know. It seems a little bit different to me. Like this just seems a lot more kind of anime, and the previous one it seems like it was a little bit less anime. I gotta tell you, John, I don't like Xenoblade. It's unless they've changed it up for this one, like Xenoblade Chronicles and then Xenoblade Saga. Was that the Wii U one? Were both kind of like fake MMO controls.
Yeah.
Where it all happened in real time. And I just don't dig that. I think that MMO controls work in MMOs, but I just don't like them when they're in my like regular RPGs.
Games.
Yeah. I don't mind a real-time combat system, but just those systems always just seem kind of meh. But yeah, if you're looking for an anime as fuck game for your Nintendo Switch, Xenoblade Chronicles 2 has you totally covered. So let's see. Next up. What do
you mean? Oh, I know you hate
joy.
Don't be hating, man.
Life, laughter.
Don't be hating.
Love. All these things can go fuck themselves.
Look, man, sometimes you need a hero.
Yeah.
A sword-swinging, fire-wielding, fucking stone-cold, motherfucking with an insatiable appetite hero that just happens to be fucking Kirby.
He's a circle. He's a motherfucking circle with legs.
It's Kirby.
Yeah, I know. So
he's gonna eat you and take your powers.
There's a Kirby game. Actually, there's a lot more going on in this trailer where this new Kirby game being made for the Switch, and you know what's weird? This and the Yoshi game both have the title as just Kirby and Yoshi. Like you don't have Kirby and the Epic Quest for Butthole Dreams or whatever they call the things. But I can tell you from looking at the gameplay for this that it seems like you're going to be recruiting enemies by throwing little hearts at them, and then they're going to become like a little party that you have.
Yeah.
And later on in the trailer, you can see like when you have the different people, there's 4 different health bars at the bottom, and like one of the things at the very end shows a 2-player next to one of these other things. So it looks like you're going to be able with the Switch, right?
Yeah.
To have up to 4 people to play all the different things. So you can have 4-player co-op, or probably up to 4-player co-op. But that when you're not doing that, the computer will control it. It looks like Kirby's mostly doing like, there's a lot of fire swords, ice bombs. He turns into a weird shuffle puck at one point, or that's like curling, right?
Yeah, it's a curling puck.
And then it looks like there's going to be things where they all combine together. There's a part of this trailer where they all combine into a giant heart, and then they like roll down a hill, smashing everybody up. I'm sure it's going to be fine. I'm not trying to make you Kirby fans dislike your game.
I think it looks like an enjoyable game. Amanda's fucking excited.
I'm sure she is. I just don't. It just don't do that much for me, Kirby. I've never been a fan. I didn't play the original on the NES, and it just never really hooked me. So the last one that we played on the dojo was a perfectly fine game, but when we got done playing it for the dojo, I had zero interest in ever going back to playing it ever again. I don't know. Are you a Kirby?
I like Kirby.
Apologizer or
no apologizer? I don't apologize. Kirby's fucking awesome.
Are you a Kirby apologizer? He eats the enemies. He's putting them into his gullet. I don't know.
I mean, I obsessively played Kirby's Escape from Dreamland or Adventures Through Dreamland or whatever it was for the old Game Boy.
Yeah.
Like, I played the shit out of that game.
I like the one on the DS where you drew the lines,
Yeah, that was a good one, too.
The lines for him.
Canvas Curse.
Yeah, that one was... I like that one a fair amount because it was a weird game, but generally speaking... Next up, we are talking with Shinya Takahashi, who doesn't really have anything particular to announce. He does have this really weird thing where he's like, we've been surprised at what people are doing with the Switch. But he doesn't really go into any more, like, he's about what those things are. It's just like pictures of Switches, like, flying around and doing stuff. And he says, oh, we're so glad to see people taking their Switch outside and, like, playing it with their friends and whatever. And I guess if you only manufactured like 25 of them, then yeah, the people that have them want to like take them out and be like, look how cool I am. I got the new Nintendo console. But he talks about how having this functionality has inspired them to basically just like put more focus into third-party partners making multiplayer games that you can play outside or things that you can play with your friends, making it a shared experience or a multiplayer experience rather than just making like pure on single-player games. And then from there, he goes on to introduce Tsunekazu Ishihara. I think I might have butchered that. And
to talk about Pokken Tournament a little bit, right?
There's a version of Pokken Tournament that is coming to the Nintendo Switch. It's called Pokken Tournament Deluxe. There's going to be some new Pokemon in it, and you're going to be able to fight it out on the same screen with your friends.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't really know how well Pokken Tournament sold, or because it was a Wii U only thing, right?
Yeah, it was.
Even on the 3DS.
Yeah, no, I played the Pokken Tournament game. It was a lot of fun.
It seemed okay. I mean, like Cargill and I played it, and it seemed like exactly what it was. It seemed like just what it was on the tin, basically. Yeah. But the most interesting thing that he said is actually after they were talking about Pokken Tournament, apparently Game Freak is making a new core RPG in the Pokemon universe for the Switch.
And then said, now, don't expect any announcements for at least a year.
Right.
Which, that means at least a year for them to announce something,
and then
another year for it to come out.
Yes.
Like, so it's and even then, it's at least a year, meaning that is the soonest to expect something. It may not even happen for longer than that.
I'm going to just say right now that I think that's a very good idea. Because,
I agree.
Because, one, we need time for people to actually fucking get Switches. Two, I wouldn't be surprised if next year's E3 had some kind of hardware refresh or price drop or something for the Switch.
I will also say that this, and then I think, if I'm not mistaken, the next thing that's talked about after this were the two things that... Remember how earlier in the last podcast during the Sony thing when talked about Shadow of Colossus and there were the people that were just like, oh my fucking god, Shadow of the Colossus, fucking Sony won E3.
Right.
This is great. Like, they at least showed a trailer.
Yeah.
Here, a guy said, hey, there is possibly a title being worked on at some point in the near future for the Switch, and everyone's like, holy fucking shit, they just won E3. Nintendo won E3. Oh my god, gotta go buy a Switch. Everything's great. It's fucking,
Well, but, I mean, Pokemon's a system driver.
I'm just saying, they didn't even show a title card. Yeah. They didn't show, they just said, hey, something's being worked on. It could possibly, maybe, come out in the future. Maybe. It's not announced yet. Don't take this as an official announcement, but it's being worked on. Look at it.
Were they that cagey? I thought he was real upfront about just, Game Freak's making a game for the Switch.
Well, yeah, right? But, I mean, it comes off as, they're making a game. Don't expect any announcements anytime soon, though.
Yeah.
That's not an announcement.
Yeah.
That's just saying, hey, they might be working on something.
Yeah.
That could change that, 6 months from now, be like, you know what, we canceled that because it just wasn't working the way we wanted it to. We've moved on to something else.
I don't know, man. Nintendo doesn't seem to cancel. Maybe. Who could say?
I'm going to be honest. It's going to happen. I'm not saying it's not going to happen. But I do feel like the Shadow of Colossus thing, people maybe got overhyped it a little bit.
Well,
like, I think that's a great. I think the announcement's a great thing. I think that's smart. Get a fucking Pokemon, like a full fucking core RPG Pokemon game on the Switch.
Absolutely,
that is the smartest thing Nintendo could do.
Yep.
And I feel like that's something a lot of people asked for. I feel like this year was Nintendo going, "Hey, we listened to you guys.
Yeah,
here's this thing.
Yeah,
here's this other thing. We're listening."
Yeah. Well, you know what? Okay, let me just say that while I don't agree with like 1,000,000% hype, if the takeaway from this E3 is Nintendo's finally fucking listening to us, that represents a change in Nintendo's philosophy.
I agree.
From the last like 5-6 years worth of development, right? Where they're just like, fuck it, whatever. No, Star Fox is going to have motion controls. It's going to fucking have motion controls. You're going to
like
fucking like it. It's going to be the best fucking thing you've ever seen. We're going to make this Wii U, and then we're going to make 3 games that use the motion controls, and the rest, it doesn't fucking matter. Anyway, I agree with you because I feel like just like Monster Hunter, I have a passing interest in playing a Pokemon game. I have no interest in playing a multi-hour JRPG on a handheld device unless I can hook it up to a TV and see it on the TV. So this represents something that I really want, is a way to play a Pokemon game. Like I throughout the course of the Wii U, I know that I said at least 3 or 4 times, if you wanted to drive Wii U sales, you should have put out Pokemon. You should have just ported the last 3DS Pokemon to the Wii U and been like, now you can play it on your TV, and then everybody was like, what? Because people would have fucking bought that whole console just to play Pokemon, because Pokemon is Pokemon and people fucking love Pokemon. The word Pokemon is meaning less and less as this sentence goes on.
I will say, like I said, it's a great thing, but it's not like they announced Pokemon Snap too. So I mean, where's the Pokemon Snap?
I mean, come on, guys.
Come on. Yeah. Like if it had been a new Pokemon Snap, we wouldn't be having this conversation. We would be like, I would be at the store beating people up until I got a Switch. Like, it's literally, that's how it is.
I like the mental image that I have of just some guy at GameStop that's like, we don't have any. You're like, I'm gonna punch this woman in the face. Like, dude, we don't have any at this store. I could call, but you cut all the phone lines. You're just like, that's it. You're getting it, lady. This was on you, GameStop employee. And he's like, no, we don't have any. Fuck. Yeah. So I think that's an excellent move. I think it's
I do. I think it's a great thing.
It's a great move. I'm really excited. I'm interested. I need to go talk to fucking C. Robert Cargill and find out. I'm surprised he hasn't already snuck into my house to just take my Switch away from me. It'd
be a lot hard since I already took it.
Oh shit! Is that just a piece of plastic? Did you just leave
it's cardboard.
Piece of cardboard with one side colored? I haven't picked it up in a week and a half, so I wouldn't know. So, yes, that is good news. Now, this next announcement... All right.
And this is the other thing that kind of annoyed me.
Let's do this, all right? So, I feel like people would... Okay. They announced Metroid Prime 4.
Yes. Which I think, again, is great. I think that announcing a Metroid Prime game is fine. It's great. I know you're not a big fan of the Metroid Prime games, and that's fine. But again, my problem is like it's just a title card.
Yep.
There's nothing to get excited about. We don't even know who the fuck is developing it.
Yep.
It doesn't even say. It doesn't tell us if Retro is working on it or if it's somebody else.
Retro is not working on it.
Oh, okay. They did confirm that
specifically the Retro is not working on it, but that the guy who was the team lead on the Prime franchise is working on it.
Okay.
But they have not announced any additional things. Now, here's the thing, man. I fucking love Metroid.
I know you do.
Super Metroid is one of my favorite games of all time.
I know.
Probably ranks in the top 10 games that I've ever played in my entire life.
You can beat it in like 10 seconds.
I can beat it in 10 seconds. I beat it while we were talking, all right?
Yeah. People don't know this, but he literally, while we were talking, when he said, hold on a second, and was doing stuff, he was actually setting up his console and then played it right in front of me.
Yep, played it right in front of him. 3 times, actually.
Yeah, like
cool.
he keeps playing it and gets faster each time.
It's true. It's
the console just went up in smoke, folks.
You know how we were just talking about how it's great that Nintendo is listening to people?
Yeah.
I fucking hate this announcement. because I like Metroid Prime was an interesting spin-off, right? Metroid Prime, the year on the GameCube that Metroid Prime, Metroid Fusion came out, and it was like, oh, crazy. We got Metroid Fusion on the GBA. We got Metroid Prime on the GameCube. It's a brand new 3D Metroid. You can see all your best friends in Metroid. You also can hook up the GBA. You can get the Fusion suit, and you can, like, pass stuff back and forth, right? Yeah. Then they put out the Metroid Zero Mission, and they put out Metroid Prime 2. Metroid Prime 2 started to get a little bit like, I'm not really super interested in this, but I did play it all the way to the end, because that was where you really started to get into, like, Dark Samus and the what was the name of the energy? It was like this dark energy and stuff like that. Then Metroid Prime 3 was a Wii game, and it had a bunch of motion controls in it, and I didn't have a Wii, and I wasn't going to buy a Wii just for Metroid Prime 3, and when I finally got a chance to play it, I didn't like it because of the motion controls. Like, I really didn't like it. I love the 2D Metroids, and I love them so much. This is like what happened to me in Zelda, is that when Zelda went 3D, I didn't hate it, but I just preferred the open world, do what you want to do aesthetic of, like, A Link to the Past more than I liked the way that Zelda started to become this much more directed experience as it moved through the 3D realm. Prime is the same thing. I like the kind of open world jumping around doing stuff. I also think that the Metroidvania formula is excellent, and that Super Metroid is a fucking classic that does it. You know, Super Metroid, Symphony of the Night, like side by side. They're so good.
That, yeah.
Going to Metroid Prime and making it a first-person game, to me, was an interesting experiment, but it was like, the longer it went on, the more it was like, you've taken Metroid in a direction that I didn't really ever want Metroid to go. I liked it when it was a side-scrolling game, not when it was a first-person. Now, I've never played Other M. Everybody says it's terrible. I don't know. I've never played it. But what I do know is that when I look at the timeline for Metroid, the last Metroid game that Nintendo made was probably Zero Mission, which was a remake of original Metroid. And Metroid Fusion was the last new game that they made, and that was in 2002. That was 15 years ago that they made that. And I really wish that if they were going to bring Metroid back, that they wouldn't bring it back in the Prime universe, that they would bring it back in the Prime universe, that they would bring it back as something else, either a relaunch or like we're going to take Super Metroid, but we're going to make it a third person or something that was not just another one of these first person. You're going to scan everything. You're going to do this thing. And I understand that this is me pissing into the wind, right? That's going to fly back directly in my face because people have now grown up with the Prime franchise, and that's what Metroid is to them at this point. But I'm just disappointed because I think that Metroid has a lot of potential to do a lot of other things outside of just be a first-person shooter.
Yeah. So, I mean, and my thing is, like, I don't think you understand how popular the Prime series was. Like, because I think that the amount of people that would play a game that takes place in Metroid Prime as opposed to a regular side-scrolling Metroid, I think while there is some crossover between the two groups, I think the group that would buy a Metroid Prime game hugely dwarfs the size of the regular Metroid people.
I disagree. Because Prime was on the GameCube, and GameCube didn't sell worth a damn. So even if every person who owned a GameCube owned and loved the Metroid Prime franchise...
every single person that I have known that talks about Metroid, like when I think of Metroid, I think of the side-scrolling, Metroidvania style Metroid games. But every person that I know that has ever talked about Metroid being a great game, they're talking about Metroid Prime 1, 2, and 3. And sometimes maybe not 3, but they're at least talking about Metroid Prime 1 and 2. Every single person that I've ever talked to. Like, it is... People don't bring up the... When they talk about the Metroid, Metroidvania games, they refer to them as the handheld games.
Right.
Because that's where they experienced them. Or, and I think that's kind of the thing that you're missing. You're overlooking.
Okay.
Or underestimating.
Well, and you know what? This goes back to our Last of Us 2 conversation where you say, okay, so here's the thing. I don't begrudge you, the listener, your desire to play a Metroid Prime game. I don't. But it doesn't do anything. It doesn't excite me.
Yeah.
It excites me this much, but it makes me feel... It makes me... It's a hard thing when a game franchise that you like for a specific reason goes off on a tangent, and then that tangent becomes the for lack of a better word, prime part of the franchise.
Yeah.
Where like, and I know this feeling because I did it for years with Zelda, where people were just like, Ocarina of Time's the greatest Zelda game. It's the best game I've ever played. It's a classic. It's the best thing. I didn't have the nostalgia for it. I would go back and play it and be like, I like A Link to the Past because I do have the nostalgia for that. So again, if you're excited for Metroid Prime 4, that's great. But I'm just telling people right now that I am not super jazzed for this because to me it feels like they are quintupling down literally on the part of that franchise that I'm not super jazzed about.
I'm also kind of curious about this because the thing about the Metroid Prime trilogy, and this is as someone who has played them and actually knows what the story is, the thing about Metroid Prime is that 1, 2, and 3 took place between the first Metroid and the second Metroid. Like, it actually takes place sandwiched in between those two games.
Okay, I thought it was a prequel to the first one.
No, it takes place. It's the first.
Because Mother Brain.
Yeah. So it takes place in between those, and 3 kind of wrapped everything up and went towards 2. Like it
towards Metroid 2.
Yeah, it wrapped it, it in a nice bow. Like there's not really much more to say there.
Yeah.
So I'm wondering, does this take place between Metroid?
There's also allow me to temper a little bit of this by saying that, as you pointed out, all we have is a logo.
Yeah.
So it's entirely possible this is going to be a side scroller.
I don't think it's going to. I think it's going to be whatever. I think it's going to be a first person.
The possibility exists. Who the fuck knows, right? Like maybe yes, you are correct.
Yeah, and I do feel like that Nintendo with this one, after the Metroid Prime Federation Force debacle from the one year, they went, people were not happy about that. Let's actually make Metroid Prime 4.
Yeah.
Do we want to talk about the thing that was talked about after the conference?
We can talk about that. I had it at the end, but we could talk about it here too. So yeah, they're also remaking Metroid 2: The Return of Samus on the 3DS.
Yeah, and that's actually the other thing that kind of makes me wonder, like, is this still sandwiched in between, and then that's why they're releasing it, or does this take place after the Return of Samus, and that's why they're kind of re-releasing Return of Samus and then also announcing this?
Between Return of Samus and there's not a lot of room.
Super Metroid is just a remake of the first Metroid, right? No. Okay, where's
Super Metroid is the direct sequel to Metroid 2. And in fact, it takes place very shortly after because Samus delivers the baby Metroid from Metroid 2 directly to the research station, and then is like going about her business, and then it's like alert, like, and then Ridley busts into the station at the beginning to take the baby Metroid, right? So that baby Metroid is the end of Metroid 2 and the beginning of Super Metroid. So there's not a lot between, a lot of space there. But you could always jam something in because who cares anymore? But I don't know. And even the Super Metroid, even the Metroid 2 remake, I've looked at it. It's all 3D. It looks okay. They've definitely added a lot to it. Like they've got some kind of they've changed up some things in it. Like I was watching the Nintendo Treehouse where they're talking about like having these weapons that specifically use like this one type of energy that you're going to collect from certain enemies. I liked what that AM2R did, where they just took the sprites and then made new sprites for the Metroid mutations in Metroid 2 and then used all that to basically remake Metroid 2. I actually think that the Metroid 2 3DS remake, because it's 3D, looks a little clunky because it's using the 3D on the 3DS, and I think I would have preferred if it was sprites because it could have been a little bit closer to Metroid. But again, as this whole conversation should be pointing out to anybody listening, I'm an old man who likes my old man stuff the way that it was when I was a kid, right?
But you are getting a side-scrolling Metroidvania Metroid game, even if it is a remake.
Sure. Watching them play it, it was kind of like, this is not really what I want, but whatever. I mean, like, there's a bunch of different, like, counter moves and, like, this thing, and they've added all this thing, and I'm just like, whatever. What I really want is a sequel to Super Metroid that is not Other M. I want something that goes out. I want something that uses modern graphics technology and uses a modern thing to tell the continuing story of Samus Aran after her experience with the Metroids, maybe facing down something new. And who knows? I don't know if I'm going to get that or not. I don't know anything about it outside of this. All I know is that Prime isn't my jam, and so this is not just blowing my stack.
Okay.
So, anyway, we spent roughly 6 billion years on that. Let's move on to something that I am excited about. Just kidding, it's Yoshi.
I was about to be like, really? Because don't you hate Yoshi?
Yes.
Here's my thing.
I really do.
I think this game looks fun. I think it looks adorable, and it actually reminds me of Little Big Planet.
Yeah.
Well,
it's another side-scrolling Yoshi game, but it's kind of got this whole like
cardboard and paper.
Motif. Almost like it's a tiny Yoshi in a little world that's made of like papercraft and stuff. The weird thing though is that Yoshi doesn't look like he belongs. Like I feel like I would have seen a Yoshi that had some kind of paper aesthetic to him. But
he looks kind of furry.
Yeah, he kind of looks a little bit like the Yoshi, like the woolly Yoshi.
Yeah, it looks like they had started with the woolly Yoshi and just said, just instead of making it yarn, let's make him just look really furry.
Right. And this, is obviously, it's a Yoshi game. It's got the stuff that the last Yoshi game had. You know what? I didn't see his little dog pal. Little,
Poochie or whatever the fuck his name is.
Yeah. The big mechanic here seems to be that you can kind of turn the whole world back and forth, that you can rotate the whole world 180 to see what's behind some of this stuff. Yeah, that's fine. It's not really for me, but it's for you and Amanda to play. Take my Switch, please.
Well, since you're offering it.
Next up, we have Fire Emblem Warriors.
Yes,
the Dynasty Warriors Fire Emblem. It's funny. The story. Did you watch this one?
A little bit, yeah.
So the whole story here is that you've got these two like royal twins, and that their land has been taken over by this giant dragon, and they're in order to set things right, what once went wrong, they have to reach out into the ether and bring in the heroes from other Dynasty Warriors games to help them. Like,
or you mean other Fire Emblem games? You said Dynasty Warriors.
Yes, Fire Emblem games, yes. Like Marth and Chrom and people that I don't know from the last one and blah, 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 right? So I was thinking about it, and that's the same thing that happens in the Fire Emblem mobile game.
Yeah.
Is that you bring people in from all the different ones. And that also kind of is what happens in Fire Emblem Sharp FE.
Yeah.
Or not Fire Emblem, Shin Megami Tensei, Tokyo Mirage Sessions, Sharp FE. And it's also kind of what happens in Hyrule Warriors, because they're bringing people in from a bunch of different timelines and dimensions to fight different things.
Yes.
I'm like, boy, you guys just have this one idea. You're just really like triple.
Well, how else are they going to get all these characters in it?
I don't know. I can cloning techniques. It's an animus. They got to go back into their history. But it's funny how I've thought back and I'm like, I think the last like 3 Fire Emblem games have had this exact same plot line, you guys. This is, as always,
it looks like
Warriors.
It looks like a Dynasty. It looks like a really polished Dynasty Warriors game.
Well, yeah, and as I said before, I feel like every Dynasty Warriors brings to it, if you're a fan of the material that they're bringing into Dynasty Warriors, you'll probably like this.
Yeah.
Dynasty Warriors proper doesn't do a whole hell of a lot for me, but Hyrule Warriors was great because I like Zelda. So
ditto.
Gundam was great for me because I love Gundam. So, but I can definitely see where if you didn't like Gundam, you would be like, "What is this? This is a stupid game." To be honest, Hyrule Warriors is probably the best Dynasty Warriors spin-off game that I ever played.
Yeah.
So if this is Nintendo and Omega Force working again, probably going to be pretty decent. I'm a little bit miffed, not hugely, but I'm slightly miffed that we didn't get to see any of that new Fire Emblem game that was also announced. There's going to be a new one for the Switch, right? But whatever. From there, we talk a little Zelda. Let's talk about a little bit of Zelda. Not a lot of Zelda, but a little
the first thing they touched on is the fact that Skyrim, the being able to use the Master Sword and the armor in Skyrim on the Switch.
I gotta wonder what the stats on that sword are like, because I can make some pretty broken ass swords in Skyrim when I do it the right way. But like, can you reforge it to up its? Because you give me some bullshit beginning of the game sword, and then I get to the end of the game, and the Master Sword is garbage compared to how I can break the crafting system.
Yeah.
I don't know. It'll be interesting to see. I also wish that they would talk. I wish they would announce more amiibos that you're able to put into Skyrim, because to be really honest about it, I don't want to put a bunch of dumb Nintendo stuff into my Skyrim game. What if I could put the dumb Nintendo stuff into the Skyrim game on the VR, and then I could pick up the Master Sword, swing it around?
Probably not.
No. From there, we talked a little bit about the DLC for Breath of the Wild. The first DLC is actually coming out on June 30th and has it's called the Master Trials, and we already knew about it. It's basically this whole set of you have to go into this area without any of your equipment and then see how far you can kind of go up this series of escalating challenges in like an arena, basically. And you can only basically take the stuff with you that you find inside of that arena, which is pretty cool. I mean, it gives you a reason to, like, instead of use the Master Sword, you got to, like, try to figure out how to do stuff. There's also a tracker mode that tracks, like, where you've been over the map. There's this one-time use where you can put a coin down and then teleport back to it. And then there's some cosmetic items. There's, like, a Tingle armors and Tingle costumes and Korok masks and shit that you can get. There's a second DLC. Oh, wait, there's also... I don't remember if this is the second DLC. There's a hard mode called Master Mode that they're doing, where it took me a while to figure it out, but they had one of the fights with like the stone giants, and it actually showed them Link hitting the stone giant and then backing away, and then it shows the enemy getting its health back, like regenerating its health. So yeah, I mean, all this is interesting. It's just not exactly like big story DLC or anything. There's also a second DLC coming called The Champion's Ballad that's coming holiday of this year, and they basically just kind of showed this might be more story. They showed the 4 champions that are not Link.
It kind of insinuated that you would get to play as the champions.
Yeah, which would be interesting. I'd be curious. I don't know. I might end up playing that first DLC because fucking there ain't jack shit coming out. And I could probably use an excuse to go back to Breath of the Wild, find all the rest of them goddamn Koroks, get that mask, buy that mask for $20, then just go find all the Koroks. Then throw my Nintendo Switch into a river and set myself on fire. They're also announced that they're putting out amiibos for Mipha, Daruk, Rivali, and Urbosa, the champions. Yeah. And they look really cool. I just don't... If they're anything like the previous amiibos... Have they fixed the thing where the amiibos sell out all the time?
No.
You can't get them? No?
I mean, all the amiibos nobody wants are still there.
Oh, okay. All right. So from there, Reggie came out to talk about competition some more in front of like this weird kind of Carnival Boardwalk LA thing. And apparently during E3, they were having a Splatoon 2 World Inkling competition, Pokémon Invitational Tournament, and the Arms Open Invitational.
Yes.
Where it's going to be like 4 people, and then like 4 people from E3 were going to get to go compete in it. That's great. I
watched a little bit of the Inkling, the Splatoon 2 Invitational, because it was the same day of the press conference, and I got to watch a little bit of it. It was pretty cool.
It was good? Okay. Yeah. After that, we talked a little bit more about Rabbids, Mario plus Rabbids, Kingdom Battle. There wasn't a lot of new information here that we had. I mean, we saw more of that at Ubisoft than we did here.
Yeah.
Rocket League is coming to the Nintendo Switch.
Yeah, it's going to have cross-platform playability with PC and Xbox.
Xbox One. Yep.
Yeah.
Great. There's going to be Mario and Luigi hats that you can put on your car. Because of course there is, and you can, that's
yeah.
And last but certainly not least, how about John? How about the catchiest song that you ever heard?
Oh
in your
my God!
Life? Super Mario Odyssey. Okay, now of all, I know I've talked a little bit of smack about a few things from Nintendo. I'm fucking jazzed. I'm excited. I'm ready to play a new Mario game.
This looks fun. Fun as hell, man.
Yep.
Plus, it's got a really, it's got a jazzy soundtrack with actual spoken dialogue.
Yep.
Which the dialogue, if they revealed later on that there is a singer in the game who is singing those songs.
Yeah.
And it's the mayor of New Donk City. City, who you may recognize the name.
Pauline?
Yeah, it's Pauline.
Okay.
She's the mayor of New Dock City, and she's also the jazz lounge singer that is singing all of the songs you hear in the game.
Yay.
And I want all of those songs on a CD that I can buy or download through iTunes and listen to.
I can honestly say that
Also, it's really weird that they have like a realistic looking T-Rex.
Oh, that has the hat on it? Okay, well, let's get into it. So, apparently, the mechanics, which we didn't really know much about until now, we knew that Mario had a hat with eyeballs on it, but that was pretty much all we knew. So, this one starts out with this T-Rex, like, going around and whatever, and it's got a little Mario hat on top of it. From there, it goes into the trailer, and we see that Mario can like throw his hat at people. He can use it as a weapon, but he can also throw his hat on things and then inhabit them.
Yes.
You become a Mario Goomba or Mario Electricity or one of the realistic-looking people in New Dock City, and you can throw your hat on them and they get possessed by a plumber. This is cool. I'll be honest.
There's also Mario in multiple costumes that he's worn in other games.
Has he?
Yeah, every costume they showed has actually been a costume he's worn in a different spinoff.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
What was the... Okay, tell me about the mariachi or the Mexican hat one.
That one, if I'm not mistaken, was... I don't remember which one that was, but there was there's a cooking one, there was that one, there was a golf one where it was like American themed.
Yeah.
Most of them are from like packages, like box art or instruction booklet art.
Oh, okay.
But yeah, like there's even a safari one. But yeah, there was a thing that someone pointed out that's not all new costume stuff. That's stuff that's Mario's worn in other games.
Do we know if the costumes have any effect on the gameplay?
Yes.
Okay.
There will be, like they showed in the treehouse thing. They showed like in the desert level.
Yeah.
Like he tries to get into a room and the guy's like, whoa, we have a strict dress code here. You can't come in.
Okay.
So then he has to collect a bunch of coins, which they did also talk about how there's actually two types of coins.
Yeah.
There's the coins that, the gold coins that are good everywhere.
Right.
And then each world has its own currency as well.
Okay.
So
because you spend the coins in this one,
in this one you actually do spin the coins.
Yeah.
And so he goes and he buys the sombrero and the poncho,
right,
and then goes back, and the guy's like, all right, you look good, go in.
Yeah.
And then you go in and you go into the room, and Mario walks up to the center of the stage. He pulls out a guitar, plays the guitar, like a little song on the guitar, and then gets one of the little moon things that powers the ship.
Okay.
Which the ship is called the Odyssey.
Okay, well, there you go. I was going to say that, for me, it's actually been really interesting because this is the first Mario game that I've been really excited about since Super Mario World.
Yeah.
Honestly, because I didn't have an N64. I didn't really like Super Mario Sunshine. Like I just didn't really care for it. It was weird to me. I didn't have a Wii when Galaxy came out, so I never really played that. And then Wii U was just like New Super Mario Brothers, which was kind of like, whatever. The best Mario game that I played over the last probably 5 years has been Super Mario 3D Land on the 3DS, and that was just like, yeah, it's very fun. Oh, and then I guess they made the Super Mario 3D Land 2 on the Wii U where the Dick Bees came from, right?
Yeah.
That was good. But this looks really, really, really fun.
Yeah.
When they were doing the treehouse and they were talking about you're going to be encouraged to kind of just put your hat on top of different things in the world and then see how you interact with them. There's also a thing where, what was the Zelda, the 3DS Zelda?
Yeah,
Link
Between Worlds.
Link Between Worlds, where apparently Mario goes inside of geometry and then becomes 2D Mario and is platforming.
And what's even amazing is apparently the music becomes 8-bit when you're like that.
That's amazing.
And then when you pop out of it, it goes back to being orchestral.
Yeah. Everything about this is just I'm loving it. I'm loving every part of what I'm seeing here. There's a frog with a Mario mustache. There's a Bullet Bill with a Mario mustache. Koopa with Mario mustache. There was a part that they were showing where you had to inhabit a Bullet Bill in order to break a wall in order to get to another part of a level, or
Also, there is co-op in the game.
Is there?
Yeah, they announced on the third day of E3, which would have been today, the day we're recording this. They announced that there is a co-op mode where one person controls the hat and the other person controls Mario. And
That's
Mario,
interesting.
yeah, like it kind of made it sound like you don't have the ability to take over stuff, but then they were very cagey about what you could and couldn't do with it.
Well, like if the hat's on Mario, and then if the Mario throws,
the hat is hovering in the air, and like you're actually the second player is controlling the hat, and it can attack stuff. It can hover in the air so that Mario can jump on it like a trampoline. It can.
Okay,
but yeah,
that's a little strange. It appears that I did catch enough of one of the tree houses to know that apparently the villains in this are all the wedding planners.
Yes, they're the wedding planners for Bowser and Peach.
And Peach. Bowser's kidnapped Peach and is going to marry her, and that the wedding planners are these weird kind of like little monsters that are trying to thwart Mario from thwarting their marriage thing. So yeah, I couldn't be more excited about this. I could not. This looks excellent, and I really, really want to play it. It looks real fun. There's a car. Mario has a hat on top of a taxi and drives away. Yeah, I don't know. You probably couldn't have done better for me with Nintendo in regards to this. So yeah, I cannot wait to get my hands on this.
And the soundtrack, like I said, that jazz soundtrack sounds really fun because if you actually listen to what she's singing about the games. She's singing about Mario jumping high and being Mario.
Yep. And that's coming out October 27th.
Yes.
This year. So, and that was it. From there, they jumped on over to the treehouse and started showing stuff. But that was Nintendo. So, Nintendo for me was a real set of highs and lows because I thought that Mario looked real good, and I thought that some of the other stuff that they showed, I know I talked some shit about Xenoblade Chronicles, but I'll probably still give it a shot. I like the idea of Pokemon coming there. I didn't really care for Yoshi or Kirby, but that's just because I don't really care about those characters. But I
think I was just more annoyed at the fact that they were just like, and Metroid Prime 4 title card.
Yeah.
Nothing else. No coming soon. No what studio is working on it. No information about it. Just a title card and the words in development.
I feel like in the past they would have showed, like even the Fire Emblem, they showed at least a little bit, just like a tiny little bit of animation that was like Fire Emblem. Yeah, I would like to know more. I mean, again, I'll end up playing it anyway. I fucking love Metroid. I just wish that they would. I just wish that Metroid could get the treatment that Breath of the Wild got, where they really. That's what I'm hoping, is that they find something that's more of a balance between the old style games and the new style games, instead of just making another Metroid Prime. So, anyway, with that, we're going to go ahead. We're going to take a break. We've got one more thing where we're going to look at kind of just assorted other trailers, because there were some other things that dropped this E3.
Yeah.
I feel like every year it's fewer and fewer, but there were a few things to talk about, so we're just going to run those down. So stick around, and we'll be right back, and we will talk to you then.
Sometimes you need a hero. A sword swinging, fire wielding, stone cold hero with an insatiable appetite.
All right, one final push. One more. Just breathe. Breathe, John. One more push, and we'll be to the end of E3 2017.
No, it never ends.
It never ends.
It never ends.
And for this particular thing, we're just going to talk about some assorted other trailers that came out at E3 that weren't in any one particular place, because there's always a few. I feel like less and less as the years go on. I feel like there used to be more assorted announcements that weren't part of the big block. I mean, before we start, we should say that even though Metal Gear Survive was there, we didn't see
see anything
from Metal Gear Survive, which, given the other story that I wish that we had time for also the podcast, because I really have a lot to say about the fucking hellish Konami working conditions that you brought to my attention the other day. But we know that Rockstar doesn't have a presence, but we didn't see any Red Dead or any anything like that. There are a few things, obviously Death Stranding wasn't there. Obviously there wasn't a new From Software because I've been obsessively checking their Twitter account to see if there was a new thing. But, what we did have, though, was before E3 even started, we popped the new Kingdom Hearts trailer,
yes.
the Kingdom Hearts 3 trailer. Now, if we had a larger staff of Rage Select people, I feel like you and I should Skype in somebody who's just like one of those Kingdom Hearts mega fans, because I don't know that either one of us, like, we were talking about how there's a part of that trailer where there's so much going on screen, and I just don't know what the fuck is
I don't know
going on.
what's like. It's just the characters dark. I don't know if it's just the fact that they're doing quick cuts or if that's how it actually looks when you're playing it.
Yeah.
But I couldn't understand what was going on screen.
Yeah. Just bopping around, blasting Firagas and Blizzagas and all kinds of stuff.
Things that end in Aga.
Although I will say that Japanese James Wood voice actor is pretty on point.
Yeah.
There's a part in this trailer where Hades is talking, and it's the dialogue is all in Japanese, but like whoever that actor was, he was doing a damn fine James Woods impression.
Yeah.
I could say that it was like most of this seemed to take place in Hercules. We saw Sora fighting against one of the Titans from Hercules.
Yeah.
We did see, there were two kind of like little story beats. One was Maleficent and Sneaky Pete coming in to ask Hades if there was a distinctive black box in this world. And this is where I feel like there were people at home that are Kingdom Hearts fans that are watching like, oh, it's the flargening. It's the Flangaborg.
This thing that they talked about in this one game, and like,
oh, that's the secret weapon of Division 13's Special Ops Muppet Division, right? Like,
it's the box that they keep Walt Disney's frozen head.
Right. It has now become part of the canon of Kingdom Hearts. And then also at the very end, there was this thing where it's like, you want to bring Roxas back? He was never supposed to be a thing in the first place. And I actually know what that is, because Roxas was the character at the beginning of Kingdom Hearts 2 that was like a shadow of Sora or some bullshit that like disappeared, and I feel like Sora met him and liked him, and I was trying to bring him back, and this other fucking Organization 65 guy is like, oh, Sora, are you finally going to call upon the darkness? And it's just like, all right. But what I'm curious about, John, is that I know who Roxas is.
Okay.
I know who Sora is.
Yeah, I know who Sora is.
Okay.
That's about the only thing I know.
Yeah. Roxas, like I said, at the beginning of Kingdom Hearts 2, you're playing as Roxas, and then he disappears because he wasn't ever a thing. He was like a shadow or blah, 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 right? Sora meets
also,
him.
wasn't Roxas like in one of the DS games or the advanced games?
I think there was one of the prequels that had him in there or something. Almost, who knows? There were like 12 of them. But what I'm curious is that you had Kingdom Hearts 1 with Sora, you had Kingdom Hearts 2 with Roxas, and then I don't know what happened after that because I never ended up beating Kingdom Hearts 2. And then you had like 65 other side stories, and none of those dealt with like the fate of Roxas because he's like the fourth most like interesting character, and now you're back to this with Sora. I don't know. All I know is that people who like Kingdom Hearts really like Kingdom Hearts. I do not have enough time to play all those motherfucking Kingdom Hearts games, so I'll play the new one when it comes out. I hope it's...
My history with Kingdom Hearts is I remember playing and beating Kingdom Hearts, the first one.
Yeah.
And I remember really liking it.
Can you tell me what it was about?
I don't remember is the problem. I don't... There are things that people will be like, oh, do you remember in the first Kingdom Hearts when this happened? And I'm like... What? Maybe I didn't beat it, but I know for a fact I did because I've had a friend who's like, no, dude, I was there. You totally beat it. I watched you beat it.
Yeah.
Kind of thing. So it's like, I know I beat it.
Yeah. Nobody questioned John's commitment to beating the first Kingdom Hearts game.
No, I'm just saying, I do remember I do remember beating it. I just don't remember what happened in it.
Yeah.
And then I remember playing the first or the second game, and it did the late title card.
Yeah.
4 hours into the game.
Oh, yeah. Real late title card.
And I dropped the controller and said, I'm done, and walked away. And never looked back. I never looked back after that.
Yeah. I've, through the Rage Select, I've actually played a number of these different spin-off titles and things. It's just that, as I've always said, there's a point where the internal mythology starts to rely too heavily on the Organization 13 people and not like the Disney worlds have fractured and we need to put them back together. Chip and Dale have a gummy ship ticket, go to the Peter Pan world and then have an adventure with Peter Pan. I'm like, that part I remember. But when you get into Matt and I for a Patreon video just watched like that movie that was on the last Kingdom Hearts thing that they released on the PS4. My God, was it like incomprehensible? I was just like, what in the fucking goddamn is going on here? I'll play it though. I mean, what, I'm not trying to be a dick about it. It's just like it's probably the most convoluted series of video games that exists, right? I could explain the Metal Gear storyline in like 4 lines. I can explain Dark Souls to you in 2 sentences, right? It's real easy to understand, but like...
I feel like to explain Kingdom Hearts, all I should say is that, it's a franchise where characters from Kingdom Hearts and various Square games, interact in a world where they both exist at the same time or whatever.
Right.
And like, that should be explanatory of what the games are. But that's not!
Oh, no.
That's like... like... Yeah, it's like, if... It's not... It's like, that's a pebble.
I mean, yeah.
Compared to what the actual game is about.
Yes, I agree. It's what again. I'm just gonna say it. It's the most convoluted set of video game story tie-in bullshit stuff. But I'll play it. I wish it was more like Zelda, right? Where every game. I hope that Kingdom Hearts 3. You can play it, and that the game assumes that there's going to be some people playing it who don't know about all this bullshit and takes the time to explain it. Because I don't know. I mean, people are such fans of it. I'd like to see what they see in it. I just don't have time.
There
to
are
play
people who were children when that first game came out.
Oh yeah,
who are adults now.
Oh yeah, yep,
and have children of their own.
Absolutely, but there were people who were children when Metroid Fusion came out, and then now are adults and have children of their own. I mean, if you were 8 when Metroid Fusion came out, you're 23 now. So, woof. Next up, Ace Combat 7. Boy, Ace Combat 7 is a pretty game. It's a real pretty game.
Yeah, looks pretty.
And the fact that it's got PlayStation VR support, like I think that's perfect, right? It's you fly a game with a controller and then look around to find the dudes that are fucking on your 6. We're going to buzz the tower. We're going to flip off some Russians. The thing that's weird about it, though, I was talking to you about this before we started, is that you watch this trailer and it's all this like really realistic looking military planes and bases and whatever, but then the voiceover is like Princess Grabflam from the Swintar Empire is negotiating with the high clerics from and I'm just like, what princess? Is this not just Top Gun? And like, no, man, this is just a JRPG that has airplanes in it, but everything around it is like a bunch of anime people talking hella anime stuff. But then the airplanes are real airplanes. I don't understand why they don't just like go full Macross and give me an airplane that turns into a robot that I can then, blow everything up with. I don't know.
That's what they need to make. They need to make a really good Macross game or Robotech game.
I agree. I that's a franchise that hasn't been. I kind of feel like you could make it. There's a lot of those old animes that I would love to see a video game like a Gaiking video game, or like Matt just shared a new trailer for.
What was the last Robotech game? What was it, like Robotech Battlecry or something like that?
I don't even remember.
Which was for the GameCube.
PS2 that was like cell shaded.
Yeah, it was GameCube, PS2, and Xbox.
It wouldn't surprise me if there had been like 12 more games, but they just came out in Japan and nobody bothered to put them out in the United States because they do that shit. But anyway, Ace Combat 7 is looking real nice, and the last one was a 360 exclusive, and I didn't have a 360 when it came out, so I didn't play it. But I'm actually kind of excited to play a new one. Because
I've never played any of them because I'm not really big into
air combat.
Yeah, it's weird.
Yeah,
like I don't know, like you tell me like Top Gun style air combat, like jets and fighter jets and things like that, and then my brain's like, I'm not interested. You turn it into Crimson Skies, and I'm fucking there for some reason. I don't know why. Yeah, but sure.
Yeah, I don't know. It's also real pretty. Again, just I don't know if I mentioned that before, but the trailer for it is just like really dynamite looking. The people look good. The planes look good. The whole like flying around looks really nice. Next, we finally got an actual trailer, an actual walking around doing stuff trailer for Call of Cthulhu.
Yeah, looks really good.
It does look really good. It looks like it kind of takes place like in a. It looks like the trailer seems to start out like in a mansion where the character's kind of chasing down like a person, like a shadow figure that's running away from them. I like that there was some real weird paintings in there, and then it seems to transition into like you go under the mansion, and you've got like one of those H.P. Lovecraft fish villages of cultists who are chopping up fish, and they all have weird faces and stuff. And I really liked the way that there was a part where the character got grabbed, and then they went into. It was hard to even look at what was going on the screen because it was just like this weird. It was like they were floating in space, and there was a giant monster, but it was so convoluted that it was kind of hard to even make out what I was looking at.
Yeah.
And at the very end, you went back through the Cthulhu butthole into an insane asylum, and Hugo Strange was there.
Yeah.
Or somebody who looks almost exactly like Hugo Strange.
Yes.
I do have to wonder, though, whether this is going to be, or there's going to be any action in the game, or whether it's just going to be a adventure game.
Yeah, I don't know.
Okay.
No, I don't know.
Okay.
I don't know. I'm interested.
I mean, because the last one, the one that everybody keeps trying to, which I'll tell people right now, the reason that I've wanted to play that Call of Cthulhu game for the Asylum just about every year, but the PC version sucks balls and it crashes constantly.
And the Xbox One version is super fucking hard to find.
Is it? Or there's an original Xbox version?
Yeah, original Xbox, not Xbox One. Yeah, there's an original
Xbox One.
Yeah, no, the original Xbox version of it is actually like it's one of those hidden gems that didn't sell a lot because Lord knows, I mean, you could probably get it. I think you can get it for like $60 on eBay.
Yeah,
but I've been like trying to find it like locally, like at local game stores and stuff like that. Mm-hmm. Haven't been able to find it.
Was it on the PlayStation 2 or 3?
I don't think it was.
Was it just like PC and Xbox?
I think
original
it was,
Xbox?
Yeah, I think it was just PC and original Xbox.
Oh, jeez. Yeah, because the very first
because the list that you've seen me pull out once before and then question why I have a list of old video games in my wallet.
Right.
That is like one of the last games that's on that list that I do not own.
Yeah. This is Dark Corners of the Earth. Was released for, just Xbox and Windows. Yeah, and I bought it off of Steam, and apparently this is one of those ones where there's some like unofficial patches, but like the very first Asylum, this was going to be on, the Dark Corners of the Earth was going to be on there, and Grant and Jason and I tried playing it 3 times, and every time it crashed when we got to the same place.
Yeah, trust me, it's been one of those games that I've been trying to find to get a hold of to either for us to play like on a super awesome video game show, or so that I can have it so that he can play it on a fucking Asylum.
I mean, maybe when the backwards compatibility Xbox things on the Xbox One happens, maybe they'll put it on there.
Maybe Ubisoft will. Yeah. I don't know.
Is it Ubisoft?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Oh, okay. Anyway, Call of Cthulhu, looking good. I'm ready to play it. Next up, this is one that I'm kind of surprised didn't make it actually into the Sony conference. This is Hidden Agenda.
Oh, yeah. This is part of a bigger thing that Sony is doing.
Yeah, it's called the what's it called? PlayLink.
Yeah.
Which I actually didn't track down all the different games that are on PlayLink.
Yeah, they showed a trailer. So before the press conference, they showed a trailer for 2 of the PlayLink games.
Okay.
Which one of them is the one that you're going to be talking about, Hidden Agenda, and the other one was for like a party game that was very, very similar to like a Jackbox game.
Yeah, where you're like taking pictures and you're like everybody's voting on things and blah blah blah. But this is actually a game being made by Supermassive.
Yeah, Supermassive.
Until Dawn again. Yeah. And this is a
they had 3 games at E3 this year.
Did you explain precisely what it was?
No.
Okay, so you go.
Okay, so what PlayLink is essentially you're not using a controller.
Yeah.
Instead, you're using an app on your phone, and it's all meant to be multiplayer. You're supposed to have like up to 4 people, I think it is.
Yeah.
Playing at the same time, and it's an app on your phone that you can play with. And like, for example, in the one game, which I forget what it's called.
That's You.
Oh yeah, That's You. Like, everyone has their own phone, and you're supposed to like sometimes the game is everyone has to take a picture of a certain person. And then and then everyone does a weird thing with that picture, or you have to guess which friend is most likely to do whatever, and it's a fun little party game that everyone has fun with and makes fun of each other.
Yeah.
And then this game, Hidden Agenda, is kind of it's a cop procedural like crime thriller or whatever you want to call it, where there's a serial killer who's in prison, but he's still killing people somehow,
he's like a Jigsaw, where he's put his victims into deadly traps, so they're still out there.
And then you're playing the cop, who's like one of the cops that's looking for the trying to save everybody.
You're also playing as the district attorney.
The district attorney. That's the other
prosecuting him or whatever.
And so what it is that, like in Until Dawn, like decisions will pop up, and you as a group have to vote on those decisions, and whichever gets the most votes is the one that gets done.
Yeah.
There's also another aspect of it is that during the game, people will be given hidden agenda cards in which you're told, "Hey, try to like you're specifically there to try to get people to choose certain things." So in other words, your
specific outcome.
Yeah. In other words, like you're working with the bad guy,
right,
kind of thing. And so you're trying to not let everyone else know that that's you that's doing that, and you're trying to convince them to choose like you're choosing, kind of thing.
Yeah. And it's worth noting that if you haven't heard of this, it's worth going out looking at the trailer, because they're using like the same engine from Until Dawn, and it still looks. It looks really good.
Oh yeah,
very moody. It actually reminds me a lot of Heavy Rain.
Yeah.
Right. And it's a really interesting, a really nifty idea when you consider like that. I feel like a lot of the things that people liked most about Until Dawn were the branching structure of the. You have to ask yourself when you're playing Until Dawn, was the stuff where you were just moving around and interacting with the environment the thing that was really the meat of the game, or was the meat of the game the branching storyline of having different outcomes and whatever?
Yeah.
So if you feel the second is true, then this is basically taking that one part and then making more of a game out of that one part.
And they even talked about that one of the things that they didn't anticipate that they noticed with Until Dawn is that people would play it like on live streams.
Yeah.
And and then like the people in the chat would be like, "Oh, everyone would say choose this," and then like the person playing the live stream was like, "Yeah, sure, I'll choose that one,"
right?
Or would go against what people in the chat were saying, or and that like people were finding enjoyment out of doing that.
Yeah,
and they were like, "Well, why don't we make that a game?"
Yeah. So it looks really cool. And I think that this is actually kind of it's interesting because it's almost like they took a look at the Jackbox thing, and like with this PlayLink, where Sony was like, why don't we have an app that's specifically tuned for communicating with your PlayStation 4 to play certain games that are geared to it.
And it's kind of taking that idea that Jackbox started with and kind of taking it to a next level of doing it. Like it's everyone can use a phone.
Yeah.
Maybe not everyone can use a controller, but this is something you could probably play with, like, say you have a family member, like a father or mother that doesn't really like video games, but they really like crime thrillers and murder mysteries kind of thing. So you basically say, well, hey, come play this game with me.
Yeah.
And
plus
you use your phone.
It's a step above an interactive movie.
Yeah.
A little bit more than an interactive movie, but not as complicated as, like if I had my mom a controller and said, here, play Until Dawn, she would just be like, I don't know what to do with this. So I don't know. I think it looks real good. I think, again, we have that question, though, of is this a full $60 game? Because that might be a little much for a full $60
I honestly
game.
feel like this is probably going to be a $20 or $30 downloadable game.
Yeah.
I don't think this is going to be like a full disc in stores. Or the other thing it could be is that because they listed other titles, I almost wonder if it's going to be like a $60 game that has all of these.
Them? Yeah. Well, the other ones are Knowledge is Power, which looks like a quiz game, Frantics, which is a mini game collection, and then SingStar Celebration, which you would just use your phone as the microphone for.
Yeah, that's what they did for the last SingStar too.
Yeah. But I don't know, this whole PlayLink thing, I think it's a good idea.
Yeah,
I mean,
it's interesting. I'm totally interested, and I want to play them.
Formalize that whole thing. Next up, we had about 10 minutes worth of Don't Nod's Vampyr, the people who made Life is Strange and their new vampire Victorian game. Real odd. I don't know about this one. So this takes place in the 1890s, and your character is a vampire, but you're like, there's this whole kind of like vampires versus hunters thing, but then there's also like a plague that you're
in there's the plagues that are going on, and your character is a doctor, but he also happens to be a vampire,
right.
And so he still wants to help people, but he doesn't. He also has to feed, and he's not necessarily a bad guy, but he's a circumstance of what he is.
Yeah.
And there's hunters who are very clearly, don't care what you are, you're a vampire, you gotta die.
Right.
And then there's a safe haven, like there's like neutral territory where hunters are not allowed to attack vampires.
Sure.
Kind of like a treaty kind of thing, very Highlander. And then just I think it's interesting. Like the more I'm seeing it, like I'm actually getting more interested in it.
Yeah.
Just because like they're doing some interesting things with the characters. Like there's like in this 10-minute thing, they show a character who is a vampire who's also like super religious.
Yeah.
Which is something you don't see explored very much in vampire fiction. Vampire stories.
Yeah.
Because in the vampire lore stories, religious iconography hurts vampires. There's some that say that it's more of what belief you have in that religious iconography and whether or not it affects the vampire.
Right.
But it's one of those things where you don't ever see a vampire who is fully immersed himself, like they believe in religion and things like that, unless it's some weird vampire religion.
I've seen that crop up from time to time, but in general, yes, I get where you're coming from.
Yeah. So I don't know, from when this was first announced, I was kind of like, I don't really care because I haven't really cared for this company's other games. And then when they kind of showed the demo last year, I was kind of like, it's kind of cool. It kind of has a weird Dark Souls feel to it, but I don't know if I'm really digging it like all that much. And then now this year, I'm like, all right, I'll play that.
I guess maybe it's just the fact that we've been recording for so long or whatever, or this was even, I was just watching so many trailers. This is the last one I watched before we started recording. Is it, God damn, there was just a lot of yapping in that trailer. And not very much, like there wasn't even like really, there was like one tiny little combat section, and I'm a little bit more interested in seeing where the combat goes, because the narrative parts of it I feel like will be more interesting to me when I know those characters, as opposed to just getting kind of dropped in. Like at the beginning they had a lot of talking about the whole safe haven and I'm a hunter and blah 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 and you can't do this and the Spanish flu and yada yada yada. It was just like, Jesus guys, you're throwing a lot out for somebody who hasn't.
Yeah, and they also talked about how like as a vampire, if you suck the blood of someone who is healthy and doesn't have the plague, you will it will kill them, and that character will no longer be in the game, but you'll get more health and strength and power than you would if you were to suck the blood of someone who was sick.
Right. They also have these kind of ghouls called skulls that are out there that are kind of attacking people, and they're more like feral kind of vampires.
Yeah.
I don't know. I mean, as always, I'll give it a try. It's just that I think I wanted to see a little bit more about the combat system and maybe a little bit less dialogue trees. I mean, because I feel like roughly half of what we saw in the game was just dialogue.
Well, and I feel like they did that on purpose because last year it was nothing but combat and stealth. Pretty much every time they've showed this game, it hasn't been the dialogue. It hasn't been about the story because they didn't have it in place yet. It was just so fucking early that it was an alpha.
Yeah.
And then here I feel like they're like, well, people have seen, even if the combat has changed any since we showed that alpha, people have seen nothing but that.
Right.
So let's show something else.
Okay. From there, how about a little Sonic in your life?
Hey!
John? Sonic Forces.
Yes, the sequel to Sonic Generations.
Oh, is it?
Yeah.
Okay, obviously know more about Sonic than I do.
In which you get new Sonic and classic Sonic together again.
Yep.
And also a third person that you get to create.
You get to make your own Sonic
get to live your own Sonic character fantasy.
Yep.
Your own fan fiction.
Yep. I was saying to you before when we watched this trailer that there's nothing inherently to me. There's nothing inherently offensive about
there's
having
not.
a side scrolling and then a 3D Sonic, but I feel like this has a bit of a tonal problem because when I'm looking at the gameplay, it's very kind of like Sonic, and you're running around and you're doing stuff and you're jumping and it's a platformer and whatever. And the cutscenes are just like in a world that's on fire where people are taking back our city from fucking the evil blah. And it's like, whoa, dude! Like
from a powerful new evil.
Yeah, which I don't. Oh yeah, we get to see some kind of weird fucking Five Nights at Freddy's Sonic or something.
Yeah. Like, it's all the villains from the last, like, couple of games.
Yeah.
And then, like, a new character who's, I don't know.
So are you excited about Sonic Forces?
I'll play it.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, if you got it as part of, for Rage Select, and then you're like, hey, John, I want this out of my house, I'd be like, all right, I'll take it.
Yeah, I feel like I don't need to go into how I feel about Sonic. I feel like everybody knows how I feel about Sonic, which is...
Because I really liked Sonic Generations.
Yeah.
Like, it did have its problems, but I really liked Sonic Generations. So I thought that was a really good game.
I feel like after playing Wipeout, the Wipeout Omega Collection or whatever this week, that just making a racing game, man. Like Sonic, just like a super fast racing game as opposed to...
They did that.
Like a good...
They put Sonic in a car, though. Which didn't make sense to me.
Why would you put Sonic in a car? His whole thing is that he runs fast.
He's got to go fast.
Oh, jeez. Oh, jeez. All right, let's get away from there and move on over to something that I am legitimately really excited about, and that is Extinction. Now, we had a brief kind of cinematic trailer for this from Iron Galaxy, the makers of Jason Murphy's favorite game of all time, Dive Kick. Mm-hmm. And this is the one that we saw where it's basically a world where there's these giant ogres that are kind of just stomping around, destroying mankind, and you play as what is it, like a
sentinel?
A sentinel. It was like one of the last killing giant monsters guys.
They've been very upfront with that. This game was heavily inspired by Attack on Titan.
Yeah, and so. What you're going to do in this game is you've got your character is a full set of like really well put together traversal options of jumping and double jumping and air dashing and
floating and down, also running up walls, running alongside of walls, grappling hooks and bouncing off of things.
And what you're going to end up using this for is when these giant ogres attack, first off, it looks like they're going to be sending off little minions that you can kind of track down and kill.
And they did say that this is the thing that we're looking at is a pre-alpha, and that the city is not populated yet.
Right.
So when the final game comes out, you're going to have to fight these little minion guys because they're going to be attacking villagers, and the whole point is you're trying to protect them.
I'm going to say that just from watching the combat with the little ogres, that I like the giant blood splatters that they've got in this game. But it seems that the real meat and potatoes of this is going to be fighting these giant titans.
Yes,
and
these giant ogres.
Yep. The way that you're going to do that is basically by you're chopping off. So first off, they're all gigantic. Like they're huge, and they're going to have their arms and legs are going to have armor on them, and then you're going to be basically chopping the armor off of their arms and legs to build up energy so that you can eventually run up and chop off their heads.
Yes.
Now, a couple of interesting things. The limbs will eventually regenerate if you don't get rid of them, but that each one...
Well, if you cut a limb off and you don't, and you take too long fighting him to get, another limb or something, the limb will regenerate after a time.
But it's interesting because each one of the limbs does affect the ogre's ability to get at you. And one thing that I thought was really interesting was that they said that when you're fighting these ogres, one hit and you're dead. But that's what it is. That's who knows? Maybe there'll be an upgrade or something. But it looks like they've actually made it so that the platforming segments, the platforming that you can do, you can also totally do on the ogres. You can run up wall run up their backs, and you can grapple onto pieces of their armor. And
also the minions will attack you while you're trying to climb up the
trying to get up them. All this is great, and I think that this game looks really fun. Like the big old blood splatters and the big old guys. They showed a slightly harder ogre that had where the armor had buckles on it, and so you had to like disconnect 4 buckles from each piece of armor before you could start chopping stuff off. And that looks really that's an interesting little mechanic, and I think it looks real fun. The sense of scale with these guys, I feel like it kind of is to me, the feeling that I get off of it is almost like Shadow of the Colossus meets like Saints Row 4. That you could kind of, there's going to be a way to get rid of these guys, but it's not going to be as formulaic as it is in, say, the Attack on Titan game, right? If you are a fan of Attack on Titan, or if you're a fan of fighting big monsters in video games, I highly recommend that you go check out the C3 trailer, because I don't know, it looks real good to me.
Yeah, it looks cool.
Next up, Uncle Death is back, because we have Let It Die Battle to the Top, which is we didn't have a lot of information for this, but it appears to be a new expansion for Let It Die. It seems like it's going to make the tower taller with kind of like virtual levels. It seems like there's going to be a bunch of new weapons and armor and bosses and all that good stuff.
Yes, apparently the new big bosses are the 4 Forcemen of the Apocalypse.
I love Suda 51 so much. He's my favorite. He's my 3rd favorite. It looks like there's some new environs. I mean, I didn't get all the way to the end of Let It Die, but there seems to be like kind of a circus theme in some of these places, and I don't know. This looks real fun. The question, I think, is going to be whether it's added in free, or whether it's going to be you can buy it with in-game currency, or like you have to pay for it.
I just think it's just an update that adds the levels to the game, and if you can get back up to those levels, then great.
Yeah, okay.
That would make the most sense. It's a free-to-play game.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't feel like it wouldn't be the first time that we haven't seen something like that happen, but I do. I also have a whole kind of tease at the end where they're like, "Behind this door is," and then they just like kind of cut off the audio and open the door. I had fun in my time with Let It Die.
Yeah, same here. I actually really had fun playing it, and then I loved hearing you get all pissed off when one of my dead corpses killed you. And
your haters.
Yeah, one of my haters got onto you and killed you, and you'd be like, "God damn it, John, can you do something about your haters?"
Fucking
and I'm like, "Nope."
Yeah.
Because I suck.
Yep.
I suck at that game really bad.
Yeah.
Just like I suck at Bloodborne and suck at Dark Souls.
Oh, man.
And I refuse to get good.
You got to get good, noob.
I refuse.
Oh, man. You guys, you heard it here first. John refuses to get good. Next up, we had 13 Sentinels, Aegis Rim, which was... we last saw, I think, at 2015 TGS. This is the new Vanillaware game, which if you don't know who we're talking about, this is Dragon's Crown and Odin Sphere, and like they have really high quality, like kind of 2D sprites. And this is almost identical to the TGS 2015 trailer. Like it's almost exactly the same trailer,
except it's a little bit longer.
It's slightly longer, and instead of Japanese, it has English on subtitles over it. But it seems like there's going to be 13 kids and robots fighting in a kind of dystopian future. No matter what it is, I think it looks great. I love the art style for Vanillaware. I wonder if they're going to have another character with insanely large boobs that everybody gets all pissed off about, or if they even care, because it's been quite a while. No additional information, like a release date or a demo or anything about what the fuck the story is. Just there was another trailer this E3, so that happened. Next, speaking of giant robots, we have Archangel, which is a giant robot game that's coming out, I think, on PSVR.
Yeah, it's PSVR and Oculus and Vive or one or the others.
And this looks pretty fresh, man. You're just walking around as a giant robot, hitting stuff.
Yeah, this is the first trailer where I've actually had like an idea of what the game is. Like the previous trailers for this, I was just like, I don't know what this is.
Oh, were there previous trailers for it?
Kind of, but they were a little obtuse.
Okay. They were just like, talking about like, oh, it's the Resistance.
No, it would just be like, it just would show the robot.
Oh, okay.
Like it would just be like the establishing shot of the robot, and then that was it. And like with some voiceover.
Okay. But yeah, I think this is, I mean, it looks like you're just mostly punching buildings and shooting stuff and kind of mass destruction.
I'm okay with that.
With two hands, one hand seems to have like a shield in it, and the other hand seems to have like a either punching or attacking, and you're driving around a giant robot. That's a fun thing. Giant robots work really well in VR, John. They work very well in VR because you can control the giant robot, and then you can look around the cockpit with your head, and it looks great. So that is one that I'm interested in. ROM Extraction is also another one that I'm interested in, which is both a PC and coming to PSVR VR game that appears to be kind of a.
I'm just disappointed this has nothing to do with ROM the Space Knight.
Yeah. I feel like when we looked at this trailer, you were like, I was like, ROM Extraction. You're like, oh, is it about ROM Space Knight? I was like, what the? No, it's not about ROM Space Knight.
Well, don't fucking call it ROM then, man. There's only one ROM. That's a Space Knight.
So I feel this is interesting because this actually uses the gun controller, the PSVR.
Oh yeah, the aim
controller. And at the very beginning of this, like in the actual trailer itself, there's like all these robots that are like running at this guy with the aim controller, and boy, he's just shooting all around him. He's just
shooting straight forward in the area where they are not.
Yep. But it appears this is some kind of like. I don't know, another one of those kind of like arena shooting blasting type of things. Again, I'm interested as long as it's not ridiculously expensive. I'm always interested in getting a few things. Let's see. After that, we didn't actually talk about this, but before the Sony press conference, I feel like there was an announcement for Matterfall, which is the new game from Housemarque, who are the people who made Resogun. And this is a side-scrolling kind of like right stick to aim fire kind of Mega Man-y type of game, it seems like. I don't know, maybe there's no like capture and stuff, but it looks like a real fun kind of just big bombastic action game with a lot of like blasting and shooting and jumping, and there's just colored lights everywhere, the future lights all over the goddamn place. So Housemarque hadn't done me wrong yet, so I'll be more than willing to give this one a shot. Did you? I don't know. Was there anything that struck you in particular?
I mean, it looks like kind of like a weird Mega Man Shadow Complex thing.
Yeah,
which that all looks good. That all looks. It looks like I'll play it.
You heard it, Matterfall. Thumbs up from Jeff and John. Next, we had A Plague Tale: Innocence, which didn't really have a whole hell of a lot of information outside of it seems like there's a real serious plague. It's like two ladies and they're running around, and there's just like apparently this company is using. Oh, this is Focus Home Interactive, and they're using the power of next gen consoles to render a lot of rats at the same time on screen. Outside of that, I don't know that much more. There's kind of I guess it seems like the light maybe gets the rats away, and then there's one point where one of the characters snuffs out the light on a guard, and then the rats all like swarm on him. I don't know. I'm always willing to give Focus a little bit of my time. I don't even know if we want to talk about this one. We watched the trailer. You remember how I said that the Xenoblade 2 was the most anime thing that had ever animated an anime?
Oh, yeah.
This one might be more. This might be more than that.
Well, it's Atlas.
Yeah, it's Atlas. And this is Utaware Rumano, Mask of Truth. And we got a little anime girl, and she's out having adventures. She's riding a tiger. She's riding a giant pigeon.
She's riding a giant fucking pigeon bird into battle.
She's riding a giant pigeon into battle. That pigeon's actually whooping some ass. This appears to be just some kind of like tactical JRPG kind of hitting stuff. It looks perfectly fine.
Yeah, it looks fine. Actually, it looks like it could be interesting. It looks like it could be fun.
I like the giant pigeon.
Yeah, just fucking riding a giant pigeon into battle. Who does that?
Yeah. Well, she does, apparently. Hey, this guy's name is Jacques Walt. Jacques DeWalt. Anyway, another thing that was shown at Sony before we got into the conference proper was Gran Turismo Sport.
Yes.
This is a very weird trailer.
Yeah.
It's like, because it's got this whole kind of like, it actually calls out previous Gran Turismos for like we got away from the racing and we got to like car collecting and doing this stuff. Like it's a very strange trailer. I feel like you guys should all go watch it. Where it's like literally talking about like okay, it starts with them saying like over the years people have mocked us for our plastic steering wheel controllers, but they didn't mock us when we banded together and started going to racing events to support our teams and blah 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 blah. But somewhere along the line we lost our way and it became more about collecting all the different cars that were in the game than it became about the racing. But now we're doing it. We're taking a torch to it and burning it all down, which is like what they say in this trailer, to basically make a new game, a new thing where you're not racing for points, you're racing because of the love of the race, or you like your country or your friends or your brand or team. It's just a very strange messaging on a trailer because, like I said, it seems to kind of say that the previous Gran Turismos were fucked up, like to almost acknowledge, because I do think that people didn't like the last Gran Turismo all that much.
No, people didn't.
Took a long time, and by the time it came out, people were more into Forza.
I also think that we're more interested in collecting cars is a shot at Forza.
Oh, you think so?
Yeah.
But it's real strange because it's a very it's appealing to a weird kind of set of emotions as opposed to like what I feel like Gran Turismo in the past has just been, look at how many gigapixels are in this car.
Look at how good this game looks.
Yeah, look at how this light has 6 billion pixels and we bought that light from the manufacturer and we scanned it using technology. But this one is very different. I don't know. You barely even really see all that much of the game, which, again, like you said, is kind of strange considering that Gran Turismo is one of those, like, look how good this game looks, things. But, at the end,
I also feel like we're at a point with racing video games, specifically between Gran Turismo and Forza, where I don't know if you can make it look any more realistic than it does.
It's like 90% to reality at this point.
And so I feel like that maybe that's the thing that they're like, you know what, maybe we should not focus on that.
Yeah. Well, it's coming out fall of this year. Hopefully for the people who didn't like the last one.
There's a VR component to it?
Almost certainly.
No, there is.
Oh, okay.
They announced that. That was one of the things you missed.
It would be silly not to have one. And then last, let's see, we got a few more. Burly Men at Sea. Seems interesting. It's a very minimalist art style with like 3 big blocky texture-looking guys with like big circular beards in a boat. It seems like it's one of those like, oh, this game is cheeky. It's got really good writing. I don't know. I'll play it probably for an Indie Friday. Who can say? Killer Instinct Eagle, or Killer Instinct the Eagle character is coming. A friend of Thunder, another Native American who apparently is now like a cyber shaman or something.
Yeah.
Like a robot bird or robot, I don't know, eagle. And this is the season 4 of DLC for Killer Instinct. I didn't know they even got this far.
Yeah.
And I know they did season 3 where they had like the weird girl from The Ring or whatever. Like they just started making up real strange concepts for season 3.
They had the Battletoads, didn't they?
Yeah. Would they also have was that the one where they had the who's the Covenant guy?
The Brute guy, or
was that who it was? I thought it was the Arbiter. I thought
Arbiter. No, the Arbiter was season 2.
Oh, okay. So it was one of the Brute. Was it the Brute General from Halo Wars?
I think it might have been the Brute General from Halo Wars, and then a Battletoad.
Oh, okay. Well, speaking of Halo Wars 2 is getting some DLC. I feel, again, it's weird that I only found this because I was just looking through all the trailers that came out of E3, because I feel like Microsoft could have taken 3 minutes to put this in their conference.
The other thing is Microsoft had the Microsoft E3 Directs that they had each day. Was kind of their, like, they weren't like a full day thing. They were just like, I think they were like 2, maybe 3 hours at most.
Oh, okay.
And they had them each day of E3, and you can actually, if you have your Xbox, you can actually watch them stored. Like, you don't have to use Twitch or anything to view them. You can view them through their own like little app thing, in which they made a lot of announcements. That was obviously one of them. The Killer Instinct thing was one of them.
Right.
They talked about how they're completely redoing avatars.
Oh yeah, yeah. Yeah, you watched that. What all are they doing to the avatar?
I mean, I didn't watch it, but
Oh,
I'm
okay.
just saying it's like the avatars thing is that they're completely rebuilding avatars from the ground up.
Yeah.
Like they're just getting rid of the old avatars and like they're more expressive, more animated. Now they're more customizable. Like you can get avatars that are in wheelchairs. You can have avatars with prosthetic limbs.
Pregnancy?
You can even make them pregnant. You can even there's even non-gender specific clothing options. You can make the avatar look however you want it to look. Like it's going to be the way you look.
Oh, I haven't seen this before. They look like looks like a Pixar character.
Yeah, they
An awful
do.
lot like a Pixar character. That's kind of cool. I wonder, did the were there people that were I don't know. Does that mean anything like to you? I don't remember ever actually using.
So here's the thing. I feel like with the Xbox 360, avatars kind of became a big deal. Where it was like because they put them front and center. They were on the front of your screen at all times, and they were they were always there. With the Xbox One, they kind of shoved avatars into the back.
Are there avatars on the Xbox One? I didn't
Exactly.
Know that there were.
Yeah, exactly. There are avatars in the Xbox One. Yes.
Huh.
They're just shoved so far in the back you can't find them.
Okay.
So I'm interested if this means that they're going to be bringing them more back to the forefront, or if they're still going to be shoved hidden in the back where no one can see, where no one will ever know that they're there.
You know what this actually makes me interested in is I know that there were a lot of games on especially the Xbox One indie channel or the Xbox 360 indie channel where you could use your avatar in the game.
Yeah.
And there was like Kingdom of Keflings, I guess, used.
Yeah, there was the Kingdoms of Keflings game. There was like what was it? There was like an arcade game where you like build your own arcade and have to manage it and things like that.
Oh yeah, the Atari
Arcade Craft.
Arcade, yeah. Well, these avatars are good looking enough that I think that would be interesting if you had the ability to put them into a game.
Yeah,
where you could.
And I think that's also part of what they're doing is that they're trying to update them to make more like independent people or
to make them good enough to go into a
to put them in a game.
Yeah, whatever. Yeah, because they do look real nice. They look real nice, and there's a lot of different little options. When does this drop?
They did not actually offer a date other than later this year.
Okay, fair enough. All right, well, that's a nice little side project. Anyway, Halo Wars 2, there was a cinematic trailer where basically some of our... God, what the fuck is it? Atraxis? Arctis?
The Arbiter?
No, the bad guy, the Brute General.
I don't fucking know.
Like, some of his guys are, like, going into this cave, and there's, like, little bugs in there, and he's like, I told you not to go in there, and then, like, the bugs jump him, and the flood is back, right? And so... they come out, and the guy's got his all flooded up on one side. It's like a brute that's all flooded up and has all that shit on him. I don't know if anybody cares.
So Halo Wars now has its Zergs.
Yep, indeed. And last but not least, no heroes allowed. I feel like, John, this was another VR one where you're kind of... this seems like a jokey game, like where you're taking the role of an evil overlord who's trying to defeat the heroes in this kind of like virtual board game that you're looking down at. The controller is in the frame, and you're using it to kind of pick stuff up and put stuff down and do different things. Seems, like I said, like it's kind of taken some pot shots at other like fantasy franchises, et cetera, et cetera.
Yeah, there were a lot of the villain sidekick characters yelling out memes, which was weird. But yeah.
And that's what I got. I mean, it's possible there could be more stuff.
I mean, there was the whole thing where Sony before the press conference announced like Undertale is coming to the PS4.
Oh yeah,
and the only mention of it at the entire night or at all of E3, it's also coming to the PS Vita. That's still apparently a thing. Undertale is going to be on.
Oh yeah, also a Super Hot.
Super Hot VR as well is coming out.
Was that was in the conference? Wasn't it?
No, that was also the pre-show as well.
Okay, yeah, because I got to go Super Hot.
Yeah, it was Super Hot VR is coming to the PS VR.
I really want to try that out.
Yeah, that's coming out in a couple of months, August.
Okay. Everything seems like it's coming out in August through October this year, outside of the stuff at the end of the year. But yeah, I'm really interested to play Super Hot because I like Super Hot. So overall, what do we think? Let's wrap it up.
It was a good year. Like I said, there was nothing bad. No, like I said earlier, there was nothing, or earlier in one of the earlier podcasts or something, there was nothing bad. Everything had something that was good. There was stuff that was a little bit disappointing, or stuff that didn't really make me all that excited.
Yeah.
But I think every press conference had something that made me go, I want to play that.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree. There was a solid amount of things that I wanted to play. Overall, I wish that there was fewer sequels, but I feel like that's just the part of the console generation that we're in right now. Is we're past the first generation and we're into the sequels that are starting to refine stuff. So once we get past here, then we'll basically have an opportunity for more stuff. As with every year, I feel like some of the most interesting things to come out of this E3 were indies. Because that's where you're seeing a lot of original ideas just popping up.
Yeah, and I will say, looking at the big three with Nintendo, obviously they're pushing Switch stuff.
Yeah.
That's what they need to do. They need to
manufacture more,
and they need to manufacture more. I felt like Microsoft had a really good variety of the games that they showed.
Mm-hmm.
They were like, oh, we're showing 52 games, and 42 of them, or no, not 42, 22 of them are exclusive of some variety,
right?
And I feel like that, but I felt like they showed a good wide range of indie titles, big budget titles, a wide range, even if they may not have been the shit, console sellers,
right?
They were there was something there for everybody.
Yeah.
Sony, I was a little weirded out because they didn't really they didn't focus at all on indie games, really.
Yeah.
Because most of that was on their pre-show and on their streams in the later days. But they focused a lot on VR, and that was actually one of the things I felt like
the only ones. Nobody, outside of just the announcement of some of the stuff at Ubisoft.
Well, I will say one of the things I really appreciated was the fact that it seemed like we're getting more full VR games, because part of the thing that after I got a PlayStation VR that I was a little worried about outside of Resident Evil 7 is that one of the things we talked about at one point was that that they're all tiny experiences. There's games you sit down, you play, you're finished in an hour, or 2 hours, or 3 hours, at most, maybe.
Yeah.
But and then maybe you go back and replay it again because there's nothing else to play.
Sure.
But there aren't any long form game full Skyrim games.
Right.
And I felt like we're now starting to get those. You've got Skyrim coming out. The Supermassive Games has got that. The Inpatient, and
right.
There are other
Doom VFR
and Super Hot VR,
right.
And now we're starting to get those games that are gonna sell or gonna make you happy to have the PSVR.
Yeah.
So I feel like that's great. I'm excited about that. I felt like everybody had their points that this was a non-offensive year. There was no bad moment.
Right.
No, there was no moment where I can just be like, well, fuck that company for just completely wasting my time.
Yeah. Yeah, there was something to like. I agree with that. There was something to like everywhere. There was no mind-blowing moment, as we've reiterated over and over again. And the closest thing was, Beyond Good and Evil 2 getting finally...
No, the only mind-blowing moment was during the Devolver Digital Conference where the presenters had actually legitimately
exploded. Yeah. But, I feel like, like it or not, E3 used to be the nexus of every single thing, but it's just not anymore. Between Gamescom and between TGS, and then between the ability of these companies to basically be like, hey, we're having a weekend
PlayStation Expo, Nintendo doing Nintendo Directs all the time.
Absolutely.
There's also South by Southwest Festival is getting bigger, so that's now becoming a big thing.
PAX, 3 PAXs, right?
I think there's 4 now. RTX, there's just so many different fucking gaming expos now.
Yeah.
That literally E3 doesn't mean what it once meant.
Yes. It used to be the one and only your one-stop shop for pretty much everything that was going to be kind of coming out over the next year. And then TGS. It used to just be E3, TGS, and then, in between.
Yeah,
whatever.
And now you have, not only these events, but you also have companies that just do live streams themselves.
Sure.
To show off their games before they're out.
Yep.
And it's just these companies now have the ability to get their message out more. I'm I'm honestly starting to want like E3. The ESA is trying to turn E3 into the Comic-Con of video games.
Yeah.
And I honestly don't feel like that's going to work.
No.
I don't think E3 is going to ever stop.
No.
But I do think that there's going to be a point at some point where it kind of regresses back to what it originally was meant to be.
Well, here's the thing. This year, apparently, attendance was up by 30%, and that
I think it was actually up a little bit more than that, but yeah.
Sold tickets, but the thing is that I feel like...
Well, that was also funny because when asked about it before the event, the E3 or ESA or whatever, they're like, "Oh no, we prepared for that, but because we didn't approve as many journalists to come in to make up for that difference in what we were selling."
Yeah.
So basically, there were journalists, or at least quote unquote journalists,
right,
who didn't get approved to get passes.
So we probably couldn't have gone to E3 this year even if I had the money.
Yeah. So there were companies that, journalist companies that were denied access unless they bought tickets.
Right.
Because they decided to make it more open to the public.
Yep. Which, to me, changes what E3 is. It used to be a lot more exciting, right? Like the weeks leading up to E3 used to be just like fucking quivering with excitement. But sometimes I feel like it's weird because we already did this once. We already did the thing where publishers were like, we're tired of having to spend thousands of dollars on booths and people to man the booths and the booth babes back when they had them, and like all this flying half of our creative staff out to LA for a whole week and putting them up in a hotel and blah blah blah. And so they wanted to make it smaller, and that was when they moved it out. They moved to Santa Monica, and it was by invitation only, no streams, not really anything big. And then they moved it back to LA, and now I feel like they're just trying to push it more in the direction of PAX or, like you said, Comic-Con. And I don't know that that's what it needs to be. If you can't get into the E3 hall to get to your appointments and you're a games journalist, then something's wrong. And I'm almost of an opinion that it would be better off to just... Because honestly, the amount of money that any one of these companies is spending to set up a booth at E3, you could put on a perfectly good live show and invite a bunch of people out.
Even the press conferences. I mean, it used to be, like you said, there used to be a thing where they would come out, they'd talk about how the company's doing, they'd talk about what they are doing for the next fiscal year.
Yeah.
They'd maybe have someone come out and demo a game, and things like that. And pretty much this year, it was literally trailer. Fan applause, trailer, fan applause, trailer, fan. Like, it didn't matter what the trailer was fucking for, there was large fan applause.
Yeah.
And it was just like, and that's what these press conferences are now.
Yeah.
They're just, hey, let's show a trailer, and it's a trailer, and fans applaud. And
somebody was making the point, this is a Game Informer podcast that I was listening to, and they made a good point that I actually hadn't thought of, is that, how in years past you would show, like, say, the last Shadow of the Colossus trailer, and then when that trailer was done, one of those devs would be standing on stage, and he'd be like, and it's coming out this October, a brand new experience for all of you. You can go check out Shadow of the Colossus. For those of you who have played it, you're going to get to see it again. For those of you that haven't, it's one of the greatest games of all time. We'll see you in October, everybody. And then you walk off stage, and they would show the next trailer, but you would get that little, like, hype machine at the end.
Yeah.
And you have a chance for applause and, like, saying a thing to get another round of applause. And that by just stacking up trailer after trailer after trailer without anybody even saying anything, it's a different type of experience. It's more like watching a montage, of trailers, obviously, than other stuff. And then I feel like if you, like, Nintendo Treehouse is better at this point, in my opinion, than anything, because we've gotten to this point where, Twitch, IGN, GameSpot, and Giant Bomb are all showing the same 10 games, but it just, you get done watching on Twitch and it goes to the next place, it goes to the next place, goes to the next place. And a lot of it over the years has become, you're just showing me, like, more Shadow of Mordor, and I'm like, you fucking sold me on War of Mordor. Shadow of War. You sold me on Shadow of War. I'm done. I'm ready. I'm ready to go.
Once you showed me Bruce, we're good.
Yeah. Show me something different. Show me something crazy. Show me fucking Metal Gear Survive. Try to sell me on Metal Gear Survive. I'm not a completely... I'm easily swayed. I like video games. I'm a hooker for video games. I don't know, make it look good enough. Maybe I'll be cool. Maybe I'll be good to buy it. The fact that Devolver Digital can't get inside of E3 is kind of crazy to me. Like, they're in a fucking parking lot across the street, right?
That's blocked off by the... Did you see that last year? Not this year, but last year. So Devolver Digital has been in this, for the last couple of years, has been in this, like, Hooters parking lot. That they have a deal with the owner of the Hooters, and it's like a privately run business, and they have a thing set up in the Hooters parking lot.
Right.
So last year, the E3 owns the lot that's right in front of the Hooters. It's between the Hooters and the convention center. Like, they rented out, the E3 people rented out that lot so that they could put their equipment trucks, but then parked their equipment trucks in a way that specifically blocked Devolver Digital. Now, the funny thing is that when people actually ask the people at E3, they're like, no, we got bigger things to worry about than Devolver Digital. Who cares about them?
Right.
But if you actually looked at the way the trucks were lined up or parked, it was totally to block that. Like, there was no other way to park. Like, only an asshole would park like that and not be trying to block that area.
Right.
So this year, Devolver Digital rented that space.
Yeah, the parking lot.
And then got told they couldn't use it for anything.
Yep.
So they, but that's another whole thing. But
yeah, I don't know. It's just, to me, I think it's been an interesting year. It's been okay. There's some interesting stuff coming out. A lot of it but this is my conclusion. The thing is, we knew about a lot of this stuff already. And if we're not having the spectacle, that's why you want a live audience, is to come out on. You want a live audience so that when Sony is there and they say, "Ladies and gentlemen, Hideo Kojima," and then fucking everybody goes nuts, right?
Yeah.
When Shigeru Miyamoto came in for the Rabbids thing at Ubisoft with Yves Guillemot, that was a moment where the audience was just like, "What? Fucking, I love that guy." If you're not going to have things that are going to bring people to their feet, like they kept in the Sony conference, they kept cutting back to the crowd. A lot of those people looked bored. They were just kind of like, I mean, some of that was just game journalists like working, right? But
yeah,
I feel like you want people to be very excited, and to do that, you're going to need these big bombastic things. But why would you take the chance of your bombastic announcement being lost amongst the ebb and flow of E3 when you could just fucking put a trailer out on YouTube 2 weeks before that and get all the press in the world from every website that's looking for stuff,
Yeah, I feel like, in all honesty, like Far Cry, the new Far Cry 5, got way more press than it would have if they had just announced it at E3.
Yes.
Because they revealed it like 2-3 weeks ago,
something like that. 2 weeks ago? Yeah, something like that. Anyway, I think with that, we're going to be done.
Yeah.
Thanks everybody for listening. If you've gotten through all these podcasts, you are certainly a wonderful super fan. Thanks for listening. It's only one time a year that John and I subject ourselves to this level of marathon abuse. So thanks for putting up with it and listening. And I hope that you all had a great E3. I hope that no matter what you feel about E3 2017, that there was something in there that you were like, I want to play that. Because at the end of the goddamn day, it's about fucking video games and having fun. It's not about criticizing or talking about who won or who lost or whatever. We're fucking here for the games.
Every year, only one person should win. The viewers, the fans.
The fans.
The person watching that. That's who you should be able to look at everything that happened and go, I won because I'm going to get this game that I really want that they talked about.
Yep. Absolutely. Absolutely. So with that, let's put a bow on it. Good night, everybody.
You hear me, Jeff? I fucking won.
Okay.
I won.
Okay.
And here's patient number 3. The way his hands are trembling, the subject's brain is still functioning, in spite of the host and